Welcome back to another episode of the Crimson Podcast. I'm Charlie Quinn alongside Julian Bonk. With AP season in full swing, we often see our classmates and ourselves cramming and preparing for those two first weeks of May, those two examination weeks. However, it's rare as students that we get to see kind of the back end of exams. So today's guests, Dr. Ferrara and Dr. Catelli, are two experts in the AP field who help Bernard's coordinate our exams and help even coordinate national exams in Dr. Ferrara's case. And so we'd love to hear what you guys have to say about what it's like to be on the other side of AP exams. Julian?
Yeah, so to start off with a few questions that either of you can answer. The first one being, Bernard's provides students with a large range of AP classes to take, from the sciences to history electives to English. What do you think is the benefit of offering such a great mix of AP classes to students at a high school?
Do you want to take that one first?
You can take that one.
Yeah, I think it's really good that students get to experience things that may not be what they're thinking about for their major, but I also think it's good for them to try a college-level course before they get into college. I think it's good for every student to be able to experience, what that rigor is going to be like, what that experience is going to be, but then that we have courses, physics is a perfect example, that there's multiple different levels of, and if you really do want to challenge yourself, you can push yourself in.
Yeah, I would echo that, and I would also say that I think even if you don't score well on an exam, it doesn't mean that you haven't gotten the benefit of having that experience of learning at a college level and learning, those expectations. So I think that, it's not always about placing out. It's about having that experience and taking that experience with you, because you're going to be sitting in a college classroom having that experience where others haven't, and that puts you at a big advantage down the road.
Yeah, I think students often say that they feel more prepared for college classes after going through Burns High School and taking those challenging courses, so it ends up paying off in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Dr. Catelli, you help with the coordinating of when our students take the exams. How early in the school year does that begin?
I'm already starting next year. We start planning and coordinating a lot of that as early as possible. The AP teachers can tell you, too, over the summer, that's when I start passing out information, when you're going to get the information to get students enrolled in that digital platform so they can start logging in, and we can start kind of organizing how many students we're going to need and tests we're going to need, what rooms are going to be appropriate. But really, that's, that it is a whole year process. It's the busiest in September, October, when everybody's registering, paying, and then right about now is, when the exams are here, we're setting everything up, making sure everybody's got everything they need to be successful in the next few weeks.
And then Dr. Ferrara, on your side of the teaching aspect of this, what's the biggest challenge you face in getting your kids ready for the AP exams in May?
I think the biggest issue that we have here in the Northeast is the fact that, up until next year, even next year to a certain extent, we don't start until September. We're not even underway. And a lot of my colleagues that I know from around the country, a lot of them are back into school in the middle of August. Wow. So we all have the same end date.
Exactly, yeah. It's
and so, you only have so many weeks. And that's why I hate snow days, right? Because we don't get those days back until after the APs. So you just miss out on class time. So trying to get through the curriculum, especially on like the physics classes where there's just a lot to get through. You can't really afford missing a day. It's tough. So that's the biggest challenge, I would say. Yeah. The other challenge, I think, is when you get into exam time, is the way the exams time out. When a student is taking 3, 4, or 5 exams, when you're taking one of the later exams, burnout becomes an issue, and it's unfortunate. But it's we do see that every year where some students just get mentally fried and aren't able to kind of be as strong as you'd want them to be in the later exams.
And Dr. Ferrara and I have talked about the difficulty, too, the students who have an exam in the morning and then another one in the afternoon, and even just that, trying to get a little bit of time before you jump from one to the other. That's a logistical piece of things that we know is important, right? Because that's 8 hours of taking college-level tests. That's a lot.
Yeah, so Dr. Catelli, are there any exams that are harder to coordinate than others, or are they all relatively the same?
To coordinate, I don't want to ever say one course, anything like that. To coordinate, absolutely, yes. There are definitely, the world language exams, there's a recording piece. We have, sound that we're playing. We have given AP music theory. We have students who have to sing, and we have to record all that and submit that. AP has been getting very, very unique in the past few years where the things that make each new course a little bit different, they've been figuring out ways where students can do those performances and provide that information. So that there are a bunch of different platforms that I have to use, different teachers I work with to make sure that portfolios are submitted. But the ones that immediately jumped out to me was the world languages, because there is like a piece where I come in, everyone is getting a headset and a microphone like this, and they're having impromptu conversations in Spanish, French, we've done German, everything like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's timed, you have to be
Yes.
going by a certain time, and if you have technical difficulties, that creates issues down the road for sure.
Yeah.
It cascades.
Yeah, the teachers who have, if the Spanish exam's in the morning, whoever's exam is in the afternoon is always a little bit nervous because they know if the recording materials or if the tech doesn't work out, their exam gets pushed a little bit while we're trying to figure out the Spanish exam.
Yeah, it seems like this whole process is really complex, and the AP gives a lot of detailed curriculum that you have to follow and systems that have to go into place for each school. So is there anything that you guys would change about how AP exams maybe are set up or the curriculum across the year if you were in charge of this?
That's a really good question. I think, a lot of students and even some teachers have wanted to have later testing dates for schools that start later, like maybe having 2 rounds of tests or something like that. Now, there are that. A lot of students probably know that there are makeup exams if you miss an exam. What they don't know, a lot of students, is there's actually makeup to the makeups. They're called exception exams, and those actually exist as well. But, from a logistics standpoint, it's very difficult from the AP side to have multiple seatings, as they call it, because it just causes a logistical problem in terms of the grading process and the reading process.
Yeah, the fact that all the exams in the nation are pretty much running at the same time is probably one of the most important things to the validity of the AP exams. But I think that, and being aware that there is a makeup option, sometimes I feel I get students who are coming to me, with this sob story of, oh my God, there's this issue with my family. What do I do? I don't know. We have options. We always want everyone to be able to take the exam. We will figure it out if we have to go to exceptional. We always run a few every year because there's a situation. But the teachers and myself, we want you to be able to take the exams and to do well at them. And I think that helping everybody understand, there are ways for us to do that. But AP, I don't know if AP does a wonderful job of making that clear. They kind of just say, this is the date, here's what it's going to be, have a good day. And people don't have to be nervous when they're coming to me to say, I need to find another date because something's come up.
Yeah, it's great to know.
Yeah, and so we had been talking about kind of how exams are evolving to kind of really be able to but require these specific tasks that are specific to each topic. Now, Dr. Ferrara, you've helped write AP exams in the past. Do you foresee any major changes with the physics exams that you've helped write?
So it's interesting you bring that up because in the past 2 or 3 years, the writing process in terms of writing questions, I've had several of my questions actually appear in AP exams over the years. Not always exactly as I written them, but the process, it's a very long process. Something that probably not too many people are aware of is that the exams are usually written 2 years ahead. And so, the exams that are going to be given in 2028 are basically already what they say in the can. They're almost ready to be set aside and they're not touched. So there's about a 2-year lag. So when somebody writes a question or somebody does something like that, it's usually a good 2, 3, 4 years before it might even appear on an exam. That being said, the rigors of how the questions are written now are tied much more closely to the curriculum than they used to be. And so now when I write questions or I submit something, it's very specific. And that goes to how the physics exams are, but all of the AP exams have a very specific learning objectives, they're called, or essential knowledge pieces. Those all have to be coordinated because AP does a really good job if you ever look at an entire exam, making sure that just about every part of the curriculum is hit in the exam. So it's not like you're going to get an exam that's very heavy on one topic and not on another topic.
Yeah.
Usually you're going to see it somewhere in the exam. And part of that is making sure that the questions that are on the exams go to specific learning objectives and specific tasks and that type of thing. So I think that's changed quite a bit in the past. I would say, at least post-COVID, let's say post-COVID, it's changed a lot. Yeah, for sure.
And Dr. Catelli, on your end, I know there's a lot of AP courses out there that our school doesn't really offer, in the sense that there's multiple sessions each day of 20 plus kids running. And there are kids who often want to take these AP courses, might be a little more specific to their area of study or background. So how does that influence the way that you set up exams? If there's only a couple kids taking it, it might be a self-study course or an online course that's not taught in the school directly.
Yeah, with self-study too, what I would throw out in the beginning, I think one of the first things that Dr. Ferrara mentioned too, like the importance of being in a college course. We have procedures. Students can definitely self-study, but I think if you're self-studying, you're missing a little bit of the being through the whole experience of the course. It's not something that we really recommend just because you're missing that lens of it. But you're absolutely right. If you are fluent in a language and you're going to school outside, for a world language, or you're self-studying it, we can certainly do it. But yeah, when we're running a test with one student in it, which this year we have multiple of those, that's a proctor, a room, a setup, and just a little bit of our focus while the exam is going on somewhere else. But we have the procedure set up, and if students want to do it, we have the space and we're available to. But I always, whenever anybody asks to do the self-study, I always chat with them about that of, understanding being in the course is a very, very big part of it. And that's probably the main reason we have so many restrictions about not really being able to self-study courses that we offer in the school, because we want students in that class getting that experience of doing the practice, not just taking the test for those few hours.
Yeah, and now, Dr. Catelli, correct me if I'm wrong, but you also help coordinate other standard examinations. How does the AP coordinating differ from that of, let's say, the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment or other required exams?
Yeah, the NJGPA is one of the ones I don't do, but you're right. There's a bunch of other ones. I always just want to give a shout out to Ms. Barna. She does that one with Dr. Edgerton. So this one APs is super unique just because of how many exams happen over 2 weeks. The other one is generally there's a big day, everybody's in the lower gym, right? You have a very big amount of people taking the test 1 or 2 days, and it kind of, stops everything and moves on. Sometimes when I talk with Dr. Nigel, we're really about how are we running AP exams while still allowing the school to keep running. A lot of the other times you're seeing delayed openings or multiple grades or, dismissed for the NJGPA, PSATs, something like that. This is one of those, we're trying to run it in and around the whole school, because one of the other things to think of too is, right, the first exam is biology this year. But all those other courses that aren't on that first day, they're still reviewing, they're still preparing, getting their students ready. So we don't want to be interrupting school with the first AP exam. We can't stop it for 2 weeks. So I think that's the most unique thing. A lot of the other exams really is, we're done, we're doing this is our focus, and I'm trying to work around the school schedule with this.
The old saying is, it's like doing maintenance on an airplane while it's flying.
Yes.
So you have to
exactly.
You have to keep things going.
Yes.
Yeah. And you talk about those kind of daily interruptions that the AP exams cause. Now, Dr. Ferrara, how does that impact the teaching? As a teacher, what are you seeing in these kind of 2 weeks? Are you seeing more burnout? Are you seeing kids more ready than ever to learn? How does it change from your normal school day?
Well, at this point of the year, you're usually through your curriculum, hopefully, and you're at the point where you're doing a review process. I think the thing that a teacher has to be prepared for is to recognize that even though you might have 3 or 4 classes in a particular week on the schedule, in reality, you might only have 3 or 4 students in any individual class, because the rest of them are taking tests. And of course, the option to come into school or not be in school on a testing day, which I fully support, means that if a student has a test in the afternoon but your class is in the morning, they're still not going to be in your class more than likely. So that's a challenge, because you never really know who's going to be there, and you never really know kind of what the priority is in terms of what to have prepared to do. So usually what I do, and I think a lot of the teachers would do, is as students come in, it's almost like not like a study hall, but it's a lot like a self-study, and it could be like a Q&A kind of session. You got to recognize that our deadline, even though my exam is next Wednesday, my deadline really is tomorrow, which is the last regular day before AP exams start, because I know I'm really not going to see a lot of students. There have been some years where I haven't seen one of my students from a day like tomorrow until after the AP exam. I just never see them because they're always taking AP tests. So that definitely becomes a challenge. But you also have to work that into your planning in terms of how you get your class to that point, and then kind of let them go on their own.
Yeah, it's definitely a time crunch for classes, especially when you're teaching 2 courses in an entire year, like you were for physics this year. It's
right. And I try to do reviews. I guess I'm somewhat unique in that respect, but I try to do evening reviews, and I try to do reviews outside of class time to encourage students to be able to come. But everybody kind of does it differently. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. That will do it for today's episode of the Crimson Podcast. Thank you to both of our guests, Dr. Catelli and Dr. Ferrara. And we wish everyone taking exams good luck for the next 2 weeks.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck to everybody.
This has been Julian Bonk and Charlie Quinn, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.